to finish up on Rule 9. And so we have a lot to cover. So let me make sure we can get everything in. So last week we discussed the difference between a personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct, and a flagrant foul. That doesn't change. So we're going to just move on from there. Just remember what we discussed last week, and we'll just keep going forward. So there was a game last 2 Saturdays ago, and I want to talk about it. They sent me the film, and I'm going to show it to you now. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, in Rule 9.4, it says no player or non-player shall charge into or throw an opponent to the ground after he is obviously out of the play or after the ball has clearly dead, either in or out of bounds. Okay, so this is a game in St. Pete 2 weeks ago. And it's doing a kickoff, obviously. Now, I want to stop right here and look at my cursor, this guy right here. All right. So obviously the ball was kicked to the right side of the field, and everybody is running toward that side of the field. But this player right here, he was on a mission, and everybody just running over there, pretty much over with. Let's continue. So we see him already eyeing someone. This one player right here is just chilling right now. Pretty much is trying to get over to the play. And the guy launches into him and clearly takes him out. And there was no flag on the play because no one seen it. Now, I see the referee looking at his watch. I guess he was, starting the clock and then stopping the clock. So he didn't see it. But someone should have seen this. The coach has seen it, but no one else seen it. So that the head linesman, that official should have seen that play, should have seen that player coming in for that charge. This is a foul, and we have to catch these type of fouls. We cannot allow these fouls to, and one more time, get by us. Here it comes, wham. And I mean, I can even hear the hit. Targeting a defenseless player, A1 while making no effort to participate in the play. A1 is obviously out of the play and not in the immediate vicinity of the runner. A1 is by definition defenseless. The contact beat by B1 is a personal foul. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this always, and how I determine if it's illegal or illegal. You're gonna hear coaches tell you, well, no one blew the whistle. That's irrelevant. Well, he should keep his head on the swivel. He was just out there playing football, whatever the excuse the coaches make. Because honestly, I would have disqualified this player for a flagrant foul. He'd have been disqualified. But this is what I always say. There's the objective of the offense is for progress. And everybody other than a runner on offense, is their job to protect the runner, period. And to block or get in between any opponent trying to stop the runner. It's the defense job to stop the runner. That's it. That's their job. And to remove or to block anyone who is protecting the runner. So if any contact on the football field is not in the area of that particular um objective, then it's illegal. If I'm an offensive player and I'm not trying to protect my runner, it's illegal. If I'm a defensive player and make contact with an offensive player who's not trying to protect the runner, it's illegal. Period. And that's a mindset we have to understand and get away from all that 40s and 60s and 70s football and all that, you know, hitting just to be hitting and ooh, and players are getting injured. This player had to go to the hospital. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had to stop the game until the ambulance came to pick this player up. So we have to be mindful of that and aware of that as officials. So I talked about hurdling. I want to talk about it again because I did bring the article that I forgot to bring last time, and I want to talk a little bit more about it again. But hurdle. All right. So in Rule 9.4, it says no player shall hurdle an opponent. Hurdling, and the definition of hurdling is an attempt by a player to jump, hurdle with one or both feet or knees foremost over an opponent who is contacting the ground with no part of his body except one or both feet. Now, in 2012, in the study guide, on page 5, it says this. And in 2012, the committee had requested to change the hurdling rule and eliminate it as a foul. By definition, hurdling is an attempt by a player to jump, hurdle with one or both feet foremost over an opponent who is contacting the ground with no part of his body except one or both feet. This is an illegal personal contact foul in Rule 943D and carries a 15-yard penalty. Recently, national and local media have identified some of these plays at the collegiate and professional level as spectacular feats and glorify the individual athlete ability instead of pointing out the heightened potential for harm. Little regard has been given to the fact that attempting to hurdle a defender increases the risk of injury to both the hurdler and the tackler. The NFHS SMAC, which is Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, requested that this rule not be changed and backed up the request by showing several instances where players were severely injured while attempting this act. The NFHS Rules Committee concurred with the SMAC and did not change the hurdling rule. In addition, to focus on the dangers associated with hurdling, it has been included as a point of emphasis for the 2012 season. The emphasis on this illegal act supports the committee's ongoing attempt to minimize the risk of injuries in high school football. Coaches must teach their players of the inherent dangers associated with this illegal act, and game officials must call it when observed. So it's illegal. It's not changing. That was 2012 and 2022, 23 now. It's not going to change it. Not going to remove that. So we need to be on it. And we're going to get a lot of boos when we call it. We know it. So I got a couple of pictures here on would we call hurdling in an instance of this picture here. Now, if you look at both the feet of the defender, they're off the ground. He's in a horizontal position. His feet is off the ground, and number 4 is hurdling over number 17. So the question will this be considered a hurdling call? Now, if you call it hurdling and in your judgment you think it was hurdling, that's fine. But it's a couple of things I want to make a point in the definition of hurdling. It says over an opponent who is contacting the ground with no part of his body except one or both feet. Because he is not contacting the ground, although he is hurdling over it, it's not by definition hurdling as a foul because the defender is not touching the ground. All right. So this will not be a flag. In this one, we see number 3 hurtling over 82. And again, contacting the ground with no part of its body except 1 or more feet. So obviously he got more than of his body on the ground. He got his head, he got his shoulders on the ground. This will not be a flag for hurtling. All right. So if he's upright or crouched in a 2-point stance, if you want to put it that way, or standing up and contacting the ground with 1 or both feet, that would be considered hurtling. All right, so let's move forward. Illegal personal contact. I call this the catch all phrase in illegal personal contact files. It says no player or non-player shall make any other contact with an opponent, including a defenseless player, which is deemed unnecessary and excessive and which incites roughness. So a suplex of a runner is a personal foul, and that's why they have it in here. Picking a runner up is not necessary to make a tackle, and it can cause severe injury to the runner and is a foul. Any contact that you deem unnecessary are excessive. Don't make a difference if don't make a difference. If you deem it fall within those parameters of a defensive player, whatever, it is illegal as a 15-yard penalty for personal foul. And if you think it's flagrant, guess what? He's disqualified. So a defenseless player, Rule 232.16, a player on the ground, including a runner who has obviously given himself up and is sliding feet first, and a runner already in the grasp of a tackler or whose forward progress has been stopped are defenseless players. So piling on, all that stuff like that. Even a player who's been held, forward progress has been held, and then there's another player coming as a cleanup. If the contact is excessive, it's contact of a defenseless player and considered a personal foul. I think I call a personal foul. A player was sliding feet first, and he got hit, and I call personal foul. The coach got upset. I'm like, hey, defenseless. He gave himself up. Some other things here is a down runner is a defenseless and cannot protect himself against unnecessary contact. Once a pass is thrown, a passer is defined as a defenseless player. A pass receiver attempting to catch a pass or defense, or they changed the rule this year to also include a defender who is an eligible receiver going for a pass and missed it and made contact. So it's offense and defense. Who's clearly relaxed, and when a pass is missed or the pass, when a player has missed the pass and feels he can no longer catch the pass, should be considered defenseless. So we got to watch out for the contact. Make sure contact is legal and not excessive. So let's talk about grasping the opponent's tooth and mouth protector or attached face mask as a foul. So we're talking about face mask fouls. Everything between all the openings and the mouthpiece is considered a face mask. Now, one thing I want to bring about the face mask, because I keep hearing this, that I think, I don't know, in NFL, I believe they do no longer call the incidental face mask, which is a 5-yard penalty. I don't know about college. I didn't look it up. However, at the high school level, if you had a rule book and you look under the notes, it tells you in the notes. One moment. Under face mask. I didn't highlight it. Apologize. Okay. It says incidental grasping of the face mask, helmet opening, chin strap, tooth or mouth protector is 5-yard penalty. All right. So it says it in the notes. At the reading, you go down to the notes in the black. It tells you our different penalties. It says an incidental, like grab and release, is still a foul and is a 5-yard penalty. And again, you're going to hear certain coaches who watch a lot of NFL says those are no longer a foul, or they may say that everything is a 15-yard penalty. Even an incidental is no longer 5 yards, everything considered 15. That's not what the NFL done, but that's how they interpret it, and the layman interpretation. So understand there is still 5 and 15-yard face mask penalties, but the mouth protectors is also included in that. Prohibiting on contact to and with the helmet. A defender launching and initiate contact with the top of his helmet is a foul for spearing and could be an illegal personal contact as well. The rules apply equally to A and B. If the runner initiates contact with the top of his helmet, it is a foul for spearing. Now, this is where your judgment has to come in. Is he dipping his head? If you look in the case book, it says that runners will dip trying to gain more yardage and things of that nature. But if your judgment is that this runner is literally trying to punish and trying to remove a player out with his helmet, it is considered a foul for spearing, even for the runner. So it even a runner get a face mask. If a runner grabs inside a defender's face mask and pull down, even the runner can get a face mask foul. It's not inclusive just for the defense. Offense can't face mask. Offense can't use the helmets. The runner can't use his helmet. That's universal. That's both sides of the ball. So there's 3 type of prohibitions with the helmet contact. Is butt blocking, which I've seen some teaching on that, but I think they don't teach it anymore. Face tackling and spearing. Now, is it a foul if helmets make contact? Yes or no? All right. The reason why players wear helmets is because there will be inadvertently contact of the heads. Does not mean because 2 helmets make contact, it's a foul just because helmets make contact. You have to determine does it fall in these parameters. Is it spearing? Is it face tackling? Is it butt blocking? Were they trying to use their helmet as a contact to the runner, or were they just bending over trying to make contact and they hit and the helmet makes contact with the other helmet because they both dipping at the same time? Again, the reason why they wear helmets is for the purpose of heads going to make contact. You have to determine, was the helmet used as a weapon or was it used as part of the tackling process? All right. So spearing is an act by any player who initiate contact against an opponent at the shoulders or below with the crown top portion of their helmet. The shaded area is the is the crown. All right, over that. Okay, so let's talk about horse collaring. Anytime somebody grasps inside the collar, you're going to hear a coach yell out horse collar. And that does not constitute horse collar. Horse collar has certain stages it has to meet to be considered horse collaring. So right here it says horse collar tackle not complete while running across his B lines, dead ball foul. It's a so horse collaring is, let's go make this go form here. Excuse me. All right. The nameplate area directly below the play has been added to the criteria for illegal horse collar tackle. It is a foul to grab the inside back nameplate area or side collar of either the shoulder pads or the jersey of the runner, and subsequently pull backwards or sideward that opponent to the ground, even if the possession is lost. The horse collar is enforced as a live ball foul. So there's certain steps here, all right? And the horse collar checklist, all right? At first, it has to be a grab, but a grab by itself does not constitute horse collar. So grabbing inside or back side of the collar, grabbing the nameplate either side. So once you see the grab, this is the red flag, right? This is the first look that this may be a horse collar. The next thing you're looking for is a subsequently pull, all right? A pull down. Now, this is in college, it says immediate, all right? In high school, it's subsequently. So you can grab, you can run 5 or 10 more yards, and then get pulled down to the ground backwards. It doesn't matter. What matters is he does get pulled somewhere between the grab and finally going to the ground. And again, it must go to the ground backwards or sideward. So this is a horse collar. So grabbing an opponent and the opponent running, taking him forward and he releases is not a horse collar. Grabbing, and so let's look at some things that's not a horse collar. How about we do that? All right. So these are not horse collar fouls. Opponent fall forward. So if I grab someone, if the player get grabbed in a horse collar and they fall forward and not backwards, is no horse collar. If the opponent does not go down, so he pull him and he takes him all into the end zone and he let go, it's not a horse collar because he wasn't pulled down. Teammates come to assist in the tackle. So if I grab in the collar and another teammate comes and assists in the tackle, there's no horse collar foul. Grab the collar from the front and pull down to the ground. So if I grab the opponent from the front of the collar and pull him down forward, it's not a horse collar. And grab at the top of the shoulder area and pull down. So it's inside the nameplate area. But if I grab here or here and pull down, it's not considered a horse collar. Okay. So these are not considered horse collars, although it may look like it, it may be something close to it. These are not horse collar fouls. All right. So Rule 943 I is a personal foul for if a player or non-player initiate contact with an opposing player whose helmet has come off completely. So if it's not the runner, because if the runner's helmet come off, the play is automatically dead. The down is ended. But if, let's say, helmet come off a defender or helmet come off another player, the play continues, and if anybody make contact with that player, it's considered a personal foul. All right. So let's talk about targeting. Targeting is different. The targeting foul in high school is different from college. It includes that of college, but it's not the only thing that included in targeting. So targeting is an act of taking aim or initiating contact to an opponent above the shoulders with the helmet, the forearm, the hand, the fist, the elbow, the shoulders. Targeting may be called for contact against an opponent, including a runner. Note, the passer is in this play is also a defensive player. Target is a 15-yard penalty for illegal personal contact. So you know how you get players coming in and they do this, trying to make a tackle, whatever. If you're doing this and you hit the player above the shoulders, that's considered targeting. So we got some things here. Targeting is an act of taking aim, and we see the fist to the head. Obviously, there's going to be a disqualification, but targeting. Elbows to the head, again, making that quick motion like that, or taking off somebody's head. That's considered targeting, which is a 15-yard penalty. It can also be flagrant, which is disqualification. The forearm to the neck. Now there's different ones. If I'm trying to make a tackle, and I grab him above it, but if I'm like clotheslining the guy, that's considered targeting and is a personal foul. All right. A blow to the helmet by two linemen in a free blocking zone is not necessarily a targeting foul. So again, just because two helmets make contact does not necessarily mean it's targeting or is illegal. If they're both down, they both come off the ball, helmets are going to make contact. Does not mean that it's illegal. All right, let's talk about blindside blocks. A blindside block is a block outside the free blocking zone against an opponent other than a runner who does not have a reasonable opportunity to see the block approaching. As seen in the play pick, a blindside block with a forceful contact initiated with open hands is legal inside or outside the free blocking zone. Understand this. A blindside block is a block outside the free blocking zone. So understand this, reverse it. Blindside block is legal in the free blocking zone. So while the ball is still in the free blocking zone, a forcible blindside block is legal. Okay. Outside the free blocking zone, it's illegal. So blindside block in and of itself is not legal or illegal, but the way it's done determines if it's legal or illegal. All right. So we see right here a blindside block against an opponent other than a runner who does not see the blocker approaching. He made contact with his chest, his shoulders, forcible. This is considered a blindside block. Now, for it to not be a blindside block, obviously the hands needs to be open and making contact with the runner. As you see in this picture here, this is not considered an illegal blindside block. Now, in the case book, it also talks about a runner, a unsuspected player who turns and face the player who got hit, and that's also considered a blindside block. So it's not necessarily on the side, but if I'm running toward a player and that player turns because they see it in their peripheral, they see something and they turn, and I make contact with that player, that's considered a blindside block. Even though the player is facing me, the player did not see the block coming or approaching, and it's considered a blindside block. Tripping. So there's a foul for tripping has been expanded, including the runner. So before you could trip the runner, now you can't, right? It is now illegal to trip any opponent. Tripping is an intentional use of the lower leg or foot to obstruct an opponent below the knee. The penalty is a 15-yard penalty. So let's talk about roughing the passer. Sorry, guys, we got a lot to cover, so I'm going to be going pretty fast. If you have any questions, just save it for the end. So roughing the passer. A defensive player must make a definite effort to avoid charging into a passer who has thrown the ball from in or behind the neutral zone of a legal forward pass. So understand that if the passer, let's say, cross the neutral zone and throw a pass, it can't be roughing the passer, but you can get a personal foul. It just won't be roughing the passer. Okay. After it's clear that the ball has been thrown, one key indicator for roughing the passer by the defense is a renewed charge. So they're running, he throws the ball, he's slowing down, but then he picks up speed again and then charge into the passer. All right. The onus for avoiding contact rests with the defense. So normally, typically, when I see a pass thrown, as a referee, I'll be like, the pass is gone, the pass is going out, the pass has been thrown out, the pass is gone, whatever I be saying. I say whatever to get them to let the defense know not a continuous charge. Okay. A passer is a player who throws a legal forward pass. He continues to be the passer until the legal forward pass ends, or a forward pass ends when it is caught, touches the ground, or goes out of bounds, and he moves to participate in the play. So he throws it, even though he's walking away, not trying to move forward. He might be on the ground, not on the ground. He's still a passer, and it's still roughing the passer. A passer is a player who throws a legal forward pass. So if he's not throwing a legal forward pass, it's not roughing the passer. So if he throws a backwards pass and he makes contact, it's not roughing the passer because he threw a backwards pass. He didn't throw a forward pass. But you can still have a personal foul. You just can't have roughing the passer, which is an automatic first down and tacked on to the end of the run. A pass thrown beyond the neutral zone. An illegal forward pass, so let's say one or two more are intentional grounding. So no defensive player shall charge into or commit any illegal personal contact foul listed in 943 against the passer who is standing still or fading back, because he is considered out of the play after the pass and has not moved to participate in the play. Grasping the face mask is considered roughing the passer. So anything listed in Rule 943, any of those fouls, that's committed against the passer is considered roughing the passer. Because people say, okay, so what kind of contact constitute roughing the passer? Anything in Rule 943. All right. Number 54, grasp but does not twist, pull, or turn the passer's face mask. The foul is for incidental face mask and is not roughing the passer. The penalty is a 5-yard administered under the all but one principle and no automatic first down. So again, just trying to make sure that the incidental face mask, we're not going to consider that roughing the passer. Any small contact is not going to be considered roughing the passer. So just to make sure we're not giving a roughing the passer foul unjustified. So the kicker is also considered a defenseless player after a kick in play A. A kicker who has not had reasonable amount of time to regain his balance after the kick is considered a defenseless player, and it could be roughing the kicker. All right. A player becomes a kicker when his knee, lower leg, or foot makes contact with the ball. He continues to be the kicker until he has had reasonable opportunity to regain his balance. So, again, this is what we need to be looking for. There are 2 penalties for illegal contact with a scrimmage kicker or a place kick holder. We have running into or roughing. All right. Running into is a contact that displaced the kicker or holder from their position without roughing. So if he kicks it and he bumps into him and knocks him, he can even fall to the ground. That'll be running into the kicker, or if he runs into the holder, it's not necessarily roughing. Roughing is blocking, tackling, or charging into the kicker or holder. So use your judgment on that, and make sure we're not giving roughing when it's actually running into. And maybe later on in the future, when we go through some of the other courses, we might go through some videos to reinforce what roughing and running into is. All right. Make any other contact with an opponent, including a defenseless player, which is deemed unnecessary or excessive and which is cite roughness. So again, just making an emphasis of 943G, which is a catch-all. Any contact with the kicker or the holder, and you feel that it was unnecessarily, can be considered a personal foul, which would be roughing and a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. Exceptions. So contact is unavoidable because it is not reasonable certain that the kick will be made. So on a punt and he's running and he don't know if he's going to kick it, and he's trying to tackle a runner, and all of a sudden he just decides to kick the ball. Again, not a license to destroy them, but use your judgment to determine if the defender did not know that the kick was going to be, because he didn't make it immediately. A defense touches the kick near the kicker and contact is unavoidable. So obviously if he reaches and hits the ball and as he's coming down momentum, he hit the kicker's kicking leg, then that's an exception. We won't consider that running into or roughing the kicker. Contact is slight and it partially caused by movement of the kicker. So the kicker actually made the contact, and the contact was really light. Is no not running into or roughing the kicker. The contact caused by R being blocked into the kicker holder. So obviously, any forced contact would not be considered running into or roughing the kicker. So roughing the snapper. A defensive player shall not charge directly into the snapper when an offensive team is in a scrimmage kick formation. The key to this is charging directly. Now, I don't know why we do this, and it's not a rule, unless it's in a youth league that has a modification rule, if it has it in their rules. But there's no rule that says that a defender cannot line up over the snapper on a scrimmage kick. All right. There's not a rule that says that's illegal. I know we tell them not to as a preventive officiating method so that they won't charge directly into the snapper. But if the ball is snapped and that player just backs up or that player jumps in the air to try to block the kick, then that's completely fine. There's no rule that says you cannot line up over the snapper. The rule says you can't charge directly into the snapper. There's some other things, the scrimmage kick formation. So a offense in a shotgun formation does not constitute a scrimmage kick formation. A scrimmage kick formation, there's two different types of scrimmage kick formation that we covered before. One player has to be 10 yards behind their line of scrimmage to be considered in a scrimmage kick formation, or one player on his knees to receive the snap, as we see in this picture here, must be 7 yards behind their line of scrimmage, and the other player is 3 yards behind the kicker, which is 7 plus 3 is 10. That is what constitutes a scrimmage kick formation and provides protection for the snapper. If it's just one player 7 yards back or 5 yards back, the snapper does not have the protection as because they're not in a scrimmage kick formation. Now, let's go back to charge directly. So what if a defender lines up in the A gap in between the snapper and the guard, and at the snap charges through the line and makes contact with the snapper? That is not a foul because he did not charge in directly into the snapper. All right. There was contact made by coming through the A gap, and that's not considered roughing the snapper. All right. The snapper's protection does not include simultaneously contact with another A player, or nor does it take away the center guard gap from B. The roughing prohibition is only for direct charge into the snapper. Team B is not prohibited from lining up directly in front of the snapper. The scrimmage kick formation is one of which no player is in position to receive a hand-to-hand snap, which between the snapper's legs and at the snapper, either a holder with knee on the ground 7 yards and more behind the line of scrimmage, and already on a long snap with the kicker 3 yards behind the holder, or a player is 10 yards or more behind the line of scrimmage in position to receive a long snap. In a scrimmage kick formation, the snapper remains a snapper until he has reasonable opportunity to regain his balance and protect himself, or until he blocks or moves to otherwise participate in the play. All right. No defensive player may use the hands to slap or block the head or to slap the blocker's head. In play pick B, if it's slapped to the head while the ball is in the air to a pass, it would be a defensive pass interference. So we have to watch for that. I mean, sometimes it's difficult to see unless the offensive player is complaining about it. But a bell ringer, which they call it, is a 15-yard penalty for personal foul. And obviously, making contact with a receiver is definitely a personal foul or pass interference. So let's talk about 948. Unintentionally contact between a non-player and a game official in a restricted area while the ball is live. Uh, in high school, obviously, and this rule applies in youth. Very rarely do we enforce it unless we make unintentional contact. So obviously, no one would be in a restricted area while the ball is live. And youth football, they're everywhere. I normally try to tell the coaches to back up out my way. But if a game official is moving down the sideline and bumps into or make any unintentional contact with anyone in the restricted area, this is a personal foul. Now, at the youth level, again, be gentle. Normally, again, I tell them to move out the way. Don't try to make contact with someone just to call it. Just tell them move out your way, especially if you're going that way and they're close to you. But just understand, by rule, it's a personal foul. So the coach's area is a minimum of 2-yard belt between the front line of the team box and sideline, and becomes a restricted area when the ball is live. So if a player or coach or non-player is in a restricted zone while the ball is live and does not contact a game official, a warning is issued for first offense, and then a second is sideline interference, result in a 5-yard penalty, and any subsequent offense result in a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. All right. So a maximum of 3 coaches may be in a restricted area during a dead ball. No player, non-player, or coach shall be in a restricted area when the ball becomes live. So let's talk about, so I put section 5 and 8 together, non-contact, unsportsmanlike conduct fouls. No player shall act in an unsportsmanlike manner once the game officials assume authority of the contest. And we get out there, we see them with a hammer on the field, or they doing some type of stuff. All that we need to stop, unless you're in Hawaii and you're doing your national Hawaii chant, right? No coach, substitute, athletic trainer, or other team attendant shall act in an unsportsmanlike manner once the game officials assume authority for the contest. So we got 5 and 8 here, section 5, section 8, unsportsmanlike conduct. Remember, this is held in higher regards than personal fouls, right? 2 of these will disqualify you, but you can have, by theory, you can have unlimited personal fouls and not be disqualified. So this is all about respect for the players, respect for the game officials, and respect for the players. So disrespect is held at a higher degree. No non-player or unsportsmanlike and a non-contact foul while the ball is dead or doing in which the illegal participants and does not influence the play in progress. So there's a couple. This has been always a point of emphasis with the NFHS forever. When considered sportsmanship, many may first think only of the game participants, athletes, and coaches within the time frame of the game. Although players and coaches are the most visible in their display of sportsmanship, proper sportsmanship also includes public address announcers, bands, and spectators. So everybody should try to remain in a sportsmanlike manner. Prior to the game, the referee shall meet with the head coach and captains and explain that everyone is expected to exhibit good sportsmanship throughout the game. So, unsportsmanlike conduct that applies to players and non-players. In section 5, using profanity, insulting, or vulgar language or gestures. And We hear it a lot out there in youth football. Um, all I say is just pick your fights when it's necessary. All right, and we'll talk more about that when we get ready when we end this class. Using alcohol or any form of tobacco products, e-cigarettes, or similar items. And again, in Section 8, using profanity, insulting, and vulgar language or gestures, and using alcohol or any form of tobacco products. So this applies to the players and coaches or non-players on the sideline. All right, unsportsmanlike conduct that relates to game officials. So in Section 5, talking about players, refusing to comply with a game official request. So again, this is a catch one. If we ask a player to do something and they refuse to do it, yes, they can be flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. Leaving the field between downs to gain an advantage without permission of a game official. All right, intentionally fail to place the ball on the ground or immediately return it to a nearby game official when the ball becomes dead in player possession. Again, I know we might see a lot of this in youth football. Again, use your discretion. These are things we use as our arsenal and we don't use them lightly. Okay, just be patient. I know these are rules, but again, we can use our judgment and use them discretionally. All right. So let's look at the non-player in Section 5 and Section 8. I mean, attempted now this is always funny to me because you hear this a lot, right? So attempting to influence a decision by a game official, you have to call that. That's anytime a coach or non-player is trying to influence us to make a decision, either or for, is considered unsportsmanlike conduct. Now we rarely call it, but I always think it's funny because in my mind I'd be dreaming like, you have to call that. And I'd be like, you're right, coach. I have to call that. So I'm going to call that 5-yard penalty, and then I'm going to call a 15-yard penalty on you for attempting to influence me to make a decision. So, tit for tat, who's going to win that one? Disrespectfully addressing a game official. Yeah, unsportsmanlike conduct. Indicating objection to a game official decision. Again, we get all three of those in every single game when dealing with a coach. Again, can we call it? Yes. Do we call it? Not really. We always say we give the head coach a little bit more leeway than we give assistant coaches. Again, if you want to discuss this at the end, we can, but just letting you know, it's typically something we don't really call that much. All right, unsportsmanlike conduct by players. All right, baiting and taunting acts or words that signal which engenders ill will, and we always call that. Any delay, excessive, prolonged act by which a player attempts to focus attention upon himself. Yes, we call that. Kicking the ball other than doing a legal kick. Yes. Ball becomes dead in player's possession, and he shall not intentionally kick the ball, spike the ball into the ground, throw the ball high into the air or from the field of play or the end zone. And unsportsmanlike conduct by non-players, using any illegal communication equipment, holding an unauthorized conference, following pregame verification, a coach allowing her players to use illegal equipment, being on the field except as a substitute or replace player all the time, being outside the team box but not on the field, a substitute leaving the team box during a fight, coaches trying to replace three attendants are coming onto the field. Illegal participation. Let's hurry up. Team A receiver 80 steps on the sideline and then returns inbounds and catches a forward pass. Number 80 has committed illegal participation foul. The spot of foul is where he returns inbounds. No foul if it does not return inbounds. Similar restricted applies to K players. So it's not like college. That number 80 is always considered an eligible receiver, even if he steps out of bounds. So any contact against him can still be considered pass interference, but there'll also be a foul for illegal participation. You can't step out of bounds inadvertently and then come back in, even unintentionally. Um, Once he go out of bounds, step out of bounds, he has to stay out of bounds, even if he comes back in bounds. If a player is blocked out of bounds by an opponent and returns to the field during the down, he shall return at the first opportunity. All right, is illegal participation when any player, replace player, substitute, coach, athletic trainer, or attendant enters and participates during the down. If an injured player is not replaced for at least one down, unless halftime or overtime intermission occurs, to have 12 or more players participating at the snap or free kick, to use a player, replace player, substitute, coach, athletic trainer, attendant, and a substitute or pretend to substitute to deceive an opponent at or immediate before the snap or free kick, for a player to be lying on the ground to deceive opponents at or immediate before the snap or free kick, and for a disqualified player to re-enter the game. So if a player whose helmet comes off completely during the down and continues to participate in the immediate action in which the player is engaged, it is a foul for illegal participation. So illegal kicking and batting. No player should intentionally kick the ball other than as a free kick or scrimmage kick. It is illegal. It is an illegal kick. An illegal kick is any intentional strike of the ball with the knee, lower leg, or foot which does not comply with Articles 3, free kick, or Article 4, scrimmage kick, and Rule 2 for 224.9. All right. No player shall bat a loose ball. Batting is intentionally slapping or striking the ball with the arm or hand. Exceptions: a pass or fumble in flight. So a ball in flight can be batted in any direction by an eligible receiver while the ball is in flight, except batting a backwards pass forward behind the line of scrimmage by A. All right. A low scrimmage kick in flight, which is an attempt to block in or behind the expanded neutral zone, is not considered batting. All right. So exception: K may bat a scrimmage kick which is beyond the neutral zone toward his own goal line. This is legal action. If the bat occurs beyond the plane of the goal line, the ball was already dead, causing it to be a touchback by K. May also bat a scrimmage kick in flight beyond the neutral zone toward his own goal line if no R player in position to catch the ball. Any pass in flight may be batted any direction by an eligible receiver unless there's a backwards pass batted forward by the passing team. A ball in player possession shall not be batted forward by a player of the team in possession. So we're on the last one here: an illegal act, unfair act. So unfair acts, and which is very, very important, and we're going to talk about illegal trick plays here. So as such as hot out play, deceptive, or memorgram are illegal. All right. So neither team shall commit any act which, in the opinion of the referee, tends to make a travesty of the game. So this is a catch-all for the referee. Now there has been some videos, and I'm thinking about it now, and I couldn't add it anyway because we didn't have that much time. But there was a video where a player on offense was doing backwards flips, and then the ball was snapped, and they scored a touchdown, and there was no foul on the play. And there's no rule that says you can't do backwards flips behind the line of scrimmage. But we do have Rule 995. Neither team shall commit any act which, in the opinion of the referee, tends to make a travesty of the game. And making backwards flips to try to strike the defense, in my opinion, is bringing travesty to the game and would be called unsportsmanlike conduct. All right. So what about these trick plays? What about, hey, coach, this is the wrong ball, or hey, Johnny, come here for a minute, or any of those things like that we see. Are these legal? Well, in the case book, under uh this whole aspect of unfair acts, in the comments it says this: football has been and always be a game of deception and trickery, involving multiple shifts, unusual formations, and creative plays. However, actions or verbiage designed to confuse the defense into believing that there is a problem and a snap isn't imminent is beyond the scope of sportsmanship and is illegal, which will be a dead ball unsportsmanlike conduct. Now I'm going to show you a play here. And again, a lot of bad information out there. And if you're learning football by watching social media, that could be a problem, because there's a lot of things that a lot of these officials allow that is illegal, but they allow it anyways. And we got coaches that see them. We got coaches that go to our pregame and say, I'm going to run this play. And we tend to tell them, coach, you can't run that play. If you run it, it's going to be unsportsmanlike conduct. They said, well, I ran it last week, and the referees didn't say, the game officials didn't say anything. Understand, coach, but we know the information. We all been in we've been in PGO Academy, and we know it's illegal. So here go a play that I found on YouTube that's considered an unfair act, and that will be punished. That will be flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. So we see the coach. So if you look down at the bottom, you see the coach lifting his hands up and throwing his hands up, talking to the quarterback. So now we know that a snap does not have to be in between the legs, right? It can be on the side as long as it's continual motion. So they're going to meet the requirements for a legal snap. Now, this is where we get into issues, right? One, we have the coach yelling and screaming to the quarterback. And then we have the snapper giving the ball to the quarterback in a legal motion. But now we have the quarterback walking toward the referee. So the referee is complicit in this illegal act. Now, obviously, they discussed this. They talked about we're going to run this play, and the referees didn't say. They said, okay, whatever. We're not going to, whatever. But everybody, the referee's just standing there. They're just watching. And he runs. And scores a touchdown. Now, everything was legal. That was a legal snap. And he walked forward. If he would have done that without first of all, we replaced the ball on the ground. If there's any problem with the football, the game officials deal with it, not the players. All right? We don't like players picking up balls saying that's not our ball. That's not your job. That's our job. All right? So all of this is illegal and an unsportsmanlike conduct. So again, you see the coach over here making all his gestures. Guys, listen, any verbiage, anything that make the defense to think that the snap is not imminent is illegal. Everything about this play is illegal. Everything. And what's going to happen, if we allow this continue to happen, eventually the defense and the coaches are going to get wind of this. And in order for this play to work, everybody has to be relaxed. everyone has to pretend like nothing is going on. And they only take one defender to come in as hard as he can and take this guy out because they know what you're doing. And that player is laying on the ground hurt and everything like that, or the defensive line crashes into the offensive line. Any of that stuff can happen. But understand this is illegal and we have to stop it from happening, okay? So that is it.